Today is March 4th, and I thought it would be a very timely episode to talk about a particular tactic to remain in an optimal state and play within your A game or stay on top of your A game, even though there's a whole bunch of uncertainty and turmoil right now. This is a start of hopefully a very short trade war between Canada and the US. I'm saying this because I'm obviously a Canadian, but I also love Americans, have family members and friends down there, started my business down there. And so I have a very soft spot for America and Americans, although I'm not a big fan of the president, and I'll share here why. But there's a lot of leaders that I'm talking to, CEOs and executives that I'm talking to on a group setting and one-to-one basis that are not making effective decisions, and we have to coach them into being in an optimal state so they are making good decisions and better decisions, and if not best decisions that they can in this uncertainty. The moment that we drop out of an optimal state, we don't make effective decisions and we don't take effective action. And ultimately, what this happens, we've already seen the result of this happen over the last month or so when the tariffs were first announced by Trump, that a lot of business leaders were kind of stagnating. They're stagnant in terms of making effective decisions. Now, I'm not saying this is across the board, because there's a ton of opportunity for businesses here as well. This isn't doom and gloom. I'm a huge supporter and advocate of finding opportunity in every adversity. So there will be businesses that come out of here skyrocketing as a result of this, whether they're Canadian or American businesses. And those businesses are going to be businesses that are led by leaders that are staying in an optimal state. Okay, that's what we need to focus on. And how do you do that? When emotions creep up, and I'm sharing this as a human being myself, I am pissed right now in terms of what is actually happening. I can feel my emotions ramp up every time I hear something from a CEO, or when I'm listening to little bits of the market, what's happening within the market, because I know this is going to impact people's livelihoods. This is going to impact people's jobs, and not for the better, because trade wars are not very effective. I always lean towards collaboration before you cut each other off at the knees, because the collaboration is what leads to what we call a win-win-win. If you listen to any of my previous podcasts, the win-win-win is where people operate at their optimal capacity. I can guarantee you anything right now. There's people in Trump's cabinet that know this is not a win-win-win, and therefore they are not making effective decisions. They don't know how to move forward. And so as an entire government, right now, there's a whole bunch of turmoil in the US. Okay, so I have to give my Canadian government some kind of credit here, because it seems like they've kind of banded together to work towards a common goal and objective. So that's what we need to focus on. So how do we do that? As I mentioned, when we're feeling emotional turmoil, when we know that people are going to lose their jobs, when there's sadness, there's anger, there's grief, and it's what we call the reset. Every moment that we get, we have to reset our emotions. And I can't put it in any better terms than Ted Lasso. The series is actually pretty cool. I watch it as a good family show to watch and teach my kids some principles, because they don't like to learn principles from their dad, right? Typically, it's like that whole thing, you can't be a priest in your own backyard type of approach. And so my kids don't listen to me as much as they listen to people on TV, but there's one line in Ted Lasso, and I don't know exactly how he said it, but essentially he said to a player that had made a mistake, well, think like a goldfish, because a goldfish has a very short, you can say, memory response time, right? And the classic is, a goldfish can only remember up to 7 seconds and then it forgets. But the whole premise there is that if you forget about your past mistakes, the past turmoil, you're going to be able to think in a state of being reset. It's like taking a shower. When you go outside, you get dirty, you get muddy, you get a whole bunch of dirt on you, grime on you, and you go into the shower, you feel good again, you reset. The same thing happens from an emotional perspective and a cognitive perspective. We have to have moments of reset. So every single day, what is your reset exercise? Is that a walk? Is that a meditation practice? Is that a breathing practice? Whatever it is for you that works, there has to be a reset exercise or a practice. Now, here's what is changed, or what has changed now as a result of these tariffs. We are seeing a high level of emotions, and those emotions travel. They connect to other people. So when someone else is feeling anger, we will feel that anger as well. It's collective, basically, emotion sharing. And as I mentioned before, emotions carry two things. They carry energy and information, and that's very, very important for us to understand. So every time we watch the news, that's negative. Every time we hear someone else talk about the political environment and tariffs, we're taking those emotions on unless we are very strong in our own emotional balance and mastery. Okay. And so every time we take that on, we have to take a shower. It's like, if you're walking through people's neighborhoods and they haven't cleaned the streets and they're muddy and they're gucky, your shoes are going to get dirty, right? And the more neighborhoods you walk through, your shoes are going to get dirtier and dirtier. So every time you go through a particular neighborhood, you got to wash your shoes. So the same thing when you watch the news, same thing when you're listening to someone else complain about what's happening with tariffs. You got to wash that off. You got to have some kind of emotional reset. So rather than doing it once a day, I can tell you the vast majority of people don't even do it once a day. They do it maybe once a week. Okay, so there should be a daily practice to reset your emotions, reset your cognitive, I'm going to say baseline. But in these times, we got to do that more often. So here's a practical exercise for you, is to put a reminder in your calendar, on your watch, on your smartphone, whatever you need to do to say, time for a reset, and just take 2 to 3 minutes to reset your emotions. It's almost like you're wiping the slate clean. Think of it as an emotional and a cognitive bath or shower. You're just rinsing all that crap off your system so you can start fresh again. You're going to have to do this more and more and more because you're going to take on other people's crap. And that's what we are seeing here. It's an emotional overload. And again, you can't be on your A game when you're in an emotional overload state. There's tons of people that are feeling that. Even people that may not be affected are feeling the impacts of this from an emotional perspective. Remember, emotions transfer. They transfer from one person to the next person, and it doesn't have to be someone just sitting in front of you or physically present. It can be done through social media, through news. This is how our brain operates. So this is a simple tactic we as Canadians, and I know many Americans out there as well, because you're not on side with what's happening right now, and you're pissed and you're choked as well. And that's okay. We will all get through this. We will all get through this, and there will be something better that comes a result of this. And I will do another episode, particularly around Trump and his leadership style, because I think I've been very quiet about this for a long time now. I haven't really spoke about it because it's apparently taboo to talk about politics. But I'm going to talk about it from a leadership perspective and a psychological perspective, and more importantly, a personality disorder perspective, because one of the biggest things in success, right? There's 4 main buckets that I talk about. There's strategy, state, systems, and support. Within the support, this is a framework. Everything falls within these 4 buckets. Within support, you need to understand who you're dealing with. And if you falsely categorize a person, or if you inaccurately categorize a person, and you don't put them in the right category, you're going to have pain for a very long time. And many of us have put Trump in a category that he does not deserve to be in. And I'm going to shed some light on that in the next episode from my perspective, my observations, and my background in psychology, to give you a perspective of what Trump's leadership style is, how he operates. I'm sure you already know this, but there's something seriously wrong with the individual here, and we need to pay attention to this. He is not an individual that is about win, win, win. He is very much an individual about win, and that one win is for him. I'll get into that more later on, but here's something for you. Let's just summarize it. You need to stay on your A game. You need to be in optimal state. In order to do that, you got to reset your emotional state and your cognitive state. And you should be doing that at least once a day. But when there's more turmoil, there's more backlash, there's more uncertainty, and everybody else around you is feeling this as well, you got to do this more often. So set a reminder in your phone, in your calendar, every hour to reset your state. And watch what ends up happening. It's going to become a habit. It's going to become part of your routine and your behavior. And you're going to be able to operate at a higher level than those around you, and ultimately make better decisions and take more effective action to keep your business thriving instead of barely surviving.